Hello everyone, and welcome once again to Rolling Ones, the RPG podcast. I'm your host Sean, and with me are...
Noah. And Jay / that Canadian guy.
Indeed. Jay / that Canadian guy. And Noah / our Donald Trump. Alright, so...
Shouldn't it just be like / Donald Trump?
No, you're our Donald Trump.
Yeah, you're not the actual Donald Trump.
If you were the actual Donald Trump, I would disconnect you from this call.
I wouldn't.
Wouldn't you just be like... And then you would go on Fox and call me a loser.
Wouldn't you... If this were Donald Trump, though, wouldn't you not disconnect me from the call? Wouldn't you just be like, hey, aren't you Donald Trump? What are you doing in my call? Yeah, that's pretty much one of those lines. And of course, when he becomes president, because that's totally going to happen, he's going to specifically ban Sean. Nothing else.
That's okay, Jay.
Sean.
Jay, if he becomes president, I'm going to become your neighbor.
Awesome. Oh, I'm going to hold you to that. For no reason.
Alright, so, quick little announcement, but, unlike when we recorded the pilot episode, we now have a Facebook page, and a Twitter page, and a SoundCloud page. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/RollingOnesRPGPodcast, all one word. You can find us on Twitter. You can find us at Twitter at Rolling Ones, again, all one word. And the ones is spelled out. It's not like the numerical one. It's ONES. And on SoundCloud, once again, soundcloud.com/RollingOnes. Same deal, one word. Do I need to keep repeating the one word thing?
No. Yes.
Do you think they got it?
Yes.
Okay.
And if they haven't, well, we don't want them listening to this anyways.
I don't want to...
Smart people only.
This is not a dumbed down podcast.
Smart people only, minus people actually on the podcast.
Yes.
So there you go. There you go. Dominic, you can't listen to this now. That's one of my friends, so I'm gonna make him listen to this one. Are you just hoping we're gonna have a listener named Dominic? No, I hope he listens this far in.
As of this recording, and for the listeners, we are recording this early. It's on Sunday, and I'm probably not going to release this until Friday. As of this recording, we have 15 listens on SoundCloud and 1 download.
Yay!
And yet, 31 people have liked the Facebook page, so something's not right there.
I promise I didn't use any alt to like the Facebook page. I did, however, listen twice to this. No, I'm kidding. I only listened once. But hey, 15 listens on the SoundCloud, that means more people than are in our D&D group.
Unless everyone in our D&D group just listened multiple times.
Yeah, it's possible.
Alright, so... we have 2 news items today. Jay, you're not going to do that trumpet mouth news thing you did last time?
You want me to?
Will you please?
Okay, fine. News time!
That's amazing. You should be hired by CNN. Replace that Mufasa guy. Alright, so technically these news items, I already knew about them last episode, but I saved them especially for this episode because they tie into our theme today. First news item is that Paizo Publishing, the people behind the Pathfinder RPG, have announced a new adventure path called Strange Aeons, which will come out in almost exactly 1 year. It is Strange Aeons will send...
In which even death may die. Sorry.
Yes, exactly, actually. It is a Call of Cthulhu-themed Pathfinder's campaign.
What?
Yeah. It's
that sounds kind of awesome.
Yeah, it will start with the players will start as amnesiacs. It'll involve a lot of travel, and the Necronomicon will be involved, but there's no word whether or not the actual mythos deities are involved. But Considering that one of the previous adventure paths involved an invasion from Russia, probably.
Wow. Sounds awesome.
And,
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and there will also be insanity rolls.
Yay! By the way,
are the most fun for DMs.
For anyone who can't tell yet, our theme today is not to do drugs, right?
Yes, Jay. Yes,
Okay.
it is.
I smoke weed.
Every day?
Every day? God
I
damn
wish.
it.
A little too, just slightly too slow there, Jay. Slightly too slow.
I can't believe we both thought of that at the exact same time.
I mean, it's kind of a lazy joke. It's like saying 420. Like, oh, great. Oh, look at you.
What was it? Warning, smoking pot can lead to many dangerous side effects, such as never shutting the hell up about the fact that you smoke pot.
Yeah, it's the first time you heard about it from me, but yeah, no, totally. I never shut up about it. What has this been, like 13 weeks now? We've known each other? No,
No, I was just talking in general.
Yeah, no, totally. No.
So the fact that you
don't.
felt the need to suddenly announce it, just because we are just slightly in the ballpark of that topic, does raise some questions.
Slightly. No, you said it's against drugs, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and diminish that point completely now because I want to, because that's my personality. Yeah, no,
sure.
Totally. I'm completely off base. Yeah, you're right.
We're all very impressed by how adult you are smoking the drugs, Noah.
Doing drugs in D&D leads to stat loss.
Yeah.
I actually don't know. I don't think there are drugs in D&D, are there?
I don't know. Let's move on to our next news item.
Okay.
So this news item involves Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, which is the game we are playing in our campaign. You guys did know that, right?
Yay! No. I thought it was, like, 3rd? Not really.
Yeah. Noah, you didn't know that as well?
I have the 5th edition rulebook so that when we have an issue, I can look at it. So no, I didn't know. I had no idea.
Okay. That's because you're baked, Noah.
I'm so...
All right.
I'm stoned.
Alright, so, a while back, Wizards announced that they were going to be releasing the Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide, which will come out right around the time of the video game Sword Coast Legends, and will be the first official setting rulebook for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. It will focus on the Sword Coast region of the Forgotten Realms. Specifically, they have mentioned in press materials the cities of Waterdeep, Baldur's Gate, Neverwinter, and Luskan. So...
Wait, Neverwinter, Baldur's Gate, those are part of D&D?
Yes.
Yep.
Should I feel really stupid for not knowing that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I knew that, and I don't even really follow them.
They're forgotten. They're set in the Forgotten Realms, so...
Well, that's why you forgot.
Yeah, obviously. Alright, well, the Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide will... They've been... I lost my train of thought. What was I going to say?
I don't know.
That they were making the Sword Coast book.
Recently on the Dragon Plus app, they had an article with the lead designer of the book, and he explained, he let slip a couple of the things that we can expect to see in it, in regards to character options.
Okay.
So we are finally going to be seeing some more official character options. Although this time, unlike the last time, it's not free.
Oh.
Specifically, he has announced that there is... I'm going to quote this one question and answer. I actually screen capped it because I wanted it for reference, and I didn't want to I didn't want to open up the Dragon Plus app on my phone during this and then wait like 5 minutes while it loaded because that app is awful.
Okay.
The question was, what are your favorite character options in the book? And his response was, how to choose. I don't know why I did that voice. I like the half-elf and tiefling variant options, which pack a lot into a small space in terms of customizing those races for the realms to reflect their unique heritage. I'm a big fan of the Oath of the Crown option for paladins, owing allegiance to the ideals of civilization and service to a sovereign, nation, or deity of law and rulership, because it's perfect for chivalrous champions, tongue twister there, and battlefield leaders. The Undying Warlock patron makes for some tough warlocks and also manages to slip in some fun multiversal references. So, basically what I'm getting for that is that we're getting, half-elves and tieflings are getting sub-races. Cool. The paladin obviously is getting a new oath, and he actually explained what that was, Oath of the Crown, and what that entailed. The one that interests me, because I'm not entirely sure what he's referencing, is the new Warlock patron, the Undying.
Is that like a new patron or a new class of
new
patron?
I assume that it works like Warlock patrons in the current book, where it's just a type of patron you can choose from.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
It sounds
like a specific new patron you could choose, or is it a type
there
of
are
patron?
no specific
So you can choose
patrons
Undying.
Rulebook. It's Fiend, Archfey, or Great Old.
Oh, really?
It sounds neat, though.
It did give, like, examples of things.
Undying, I'm not sure if that refers to something specific in the Forgotten Realms.
I kind of, like, I think you mentioned a little while ago, and my first thought is, like, really powerful undead beings.
I know that in the Eberron setting does feature beings called Undying, and they are basically the leaders of the Aerenal Elves, because the Aerenal Elves practice a weird form of ancestor worship, where the ancestors they're worshipping are undead and still around, so they can seek counsel from them.
Oh.
And they're called the Undying.
That makes sense.
Since the Adventurer's Guide is set in the Sword Coast, it's set in Forgotten Realms and not Eberron, I'm assuming that that's not what he's referring to. But then again, he mentioned that it involves fun multiversal references, so maybe.
Yeah. Maybe.
You think they'd save that for, like, the Eberron book, and even then it would be more since Undying are technically the center of a religion, it would be that would be more appropriate for clerics.
Yeah.
So, your
It has a cool name. That's what I think.
It's also the name of the final boss of Final Fantasy XII. Somehow I don't think that that's what they're going for either.
We should decide which one is the real one. You know what I mean? Which one?
Alright, so, what are you guys hoping to see in the Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide?
Not too sure.
I don't really know much about the Sword Coast.
Yeah, neither do I.
So I don't really know what to expect.
I hope that they improve everything.
Okay. What class options, just in general, are you hoping to see, like in future supplements?
Oh, for like,
some kind of necromancer or summoner class.
There's already a necromancy school that you can focus on for wizards.
Okay, I meant like something more specifically based around summoning. I said necromancy just because I like summoning undead mostly.
Noah?
I don't know. Maybe, I really have no idea. I don't have much input, I'm sorry.
Right. Rolling Ones, the podcast where we just have nothing to talk about.
Alright. Hey, I'm playing a mobile game right now. I'm kidding.
Just make sure your vault dwellers don't die in.
No, that's not what I'm playing. No.
That's what I've been playing.
Playing Clash of Clans.
I was actually thinking there was something. There was I think it was like a homebrew or something. But there was this one race that I saw in like an older version of D&D in someone else's game, and I'm pretty sure it's just a homebrew thing, or like in a non-official third-party book. And it was, let like the good version of Rakshasas. I can't remember what they're
Good version
called.
of Rakshasa.
Yeah. Well, like, there were these things that were basically like Rakshasa, but good aligned, and if they turned evil, they turn into Rakshasas the next time reincarnated.
There's a
Is it
4th edition
reincarnate?
race like that. Deva.
Oh, yeah, what's it called?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking of. I've only ever seen that not in like third-party books and stuff
No,
like that.
the
though, so I wasn't sure if
Devas
it was
are
a
in
known thing.
in 4th edition. They're a race of basically earthbound angels, and
Yeah, I'd like to see them again, because
Well-
they're like one of my favorite races. My favorite races are Tieflings and...
the thing is about Devas is that they took their name in 4th edition. They took the name from what in previous editions was a type of angel, and in 5th edition,
okay.
that angel's back in the monster manual.
Oh, so
Yeah,
they probably
and
have to
they're
give them a
they're
new
probably
name
not
or
gonna-
something.
They're probably not going to import Devas because Devas were basically created for 4th edition, and they're at most they're probably just
Yeah.
going to release a non-DMG version of the Azamar.
Yeah. There was also something, I think it was a background called like Chaos Spawn or something like that. That was pretty cool. I don't know what that is though, so I don't know why I brought it up.
It'd be cool is like an archetype that focused a lot on dual wielding. You know?
Pretty sure Rangers have one of those.
Do they? Well, there you go. It shows you how much I know.
Rolling ones. We don't know what we're talking about.
You know what? That's nice. I like that you include yourselves into my mistakes every time. I like that. It's like I'm not failing alone.
Yay!
Alright, so in case for those of you playing at home, our theme for today is Dungeons and Dragons. The biggest role-playing game in the world. The role-playing game that, even if you have no idea what a role-playing game is, you've probably at least heard of it somewhere.
I never heard of it. What is this thing we're talking about?
Your mom.
It's kind of like Pathfinder. Like, I don't know.
It's like Shadowrun, but without the cyberpunk.
It's that fancy
Yes.
version of Stars But Numbers, right? Callbacks. Anyways.
So, I figured it would be nice to give a brief overview of the history of Dungeons and Dragons, how the game came to be, how it evolved into what it is today. Are either of you going to jump in, or am I going to do the whole history myself? You guys didn't bother looking up what the history was, did you?
Wait.
No.
You already gave like a brief overview of the history, right? It started out as
I
chainmail,
mentioned
and
the
it was like a
origins
war game.
briefly, but this is slightly more in depth.
Yeah, no, I don't know anything about the origins,
It
man. That's all
starts
you.
AD&D. I know that much. I think.
Yeah,
So basically,
that's just
I
another
said in the
terminology
Skype
for
chat
the
that
first
this is what
edition.
we're going to be talking about, and you guys didn't bother to do any research.
I just figured you had it.
Okay, well, you know what? For future reference, so I will do that in the future. Okay.
I'm just
Sorry.
gonna open up a tab for no reason at all.
Why do I even have partners
Yeah.
in this podcast?
I have no idea why we're here.
Because
Huh.
you'd get lonely, you know.
Would I, though? Would I? Yes, I would.
Yes. I mean, you'd probably lose motivation really quick if you were just talking to nobody for like an hour. And if you didn't, you'd go
make
crazy.
the loneliness fun.
Alright, so, as I mentioned last episode, Dungeons & Dragons began as a supplement for a war game called Chainmail. And the original versions of D&D assumed that you are familiar with wargaming in general and Chainmail in specific. It ended up growing in popularity beyond that, and soon they started releasing original D&D, or OD&D as people sometimes refer to it, became its own thing, and they started releasing a lot of different box sets and a lot of different versions of it. And so when people say OD&D, they could be referring to one of a number of different releases. There was the Moldvay version, I think is how it's pronounced, Moldvay or Moldvay, I don't know. There's BECME, BX, Holmes Basic. Basically just a bunch of different releases, and eventually the game was sort of consolidated and then split, so that you had two Dungeons & Dragons lines. Basic Dungeons & Dragons and Advanced Dungeons & Dragons. You have heard of Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, correct?
Yeah. That
Yes,
was
AD&D.
right? Okay.
I only heard of AD&D,
Okay.
actually. It's only because, like, on Roll20, it lists AD&D, and I don't remember seeing just regular D&D first edition, yeah.
Indeed.
So,
When people refer... Advanced Dungeons & Dragons is indeed where the edition numbering began. Because it eventually received its own little rules update, which was called Advanced Dungeons & Dragons 2nd Edition. Yay.
Yay!
And lo, the E's were
Interesting.
born.
Moving up in the world.
And, the game at the time was owned by the company TSR, and throughout the 90s, TSR published a lot of stuff. Like, they were just putting out box sets and supplements and books and just constantly, and they were commissioning all these people to write novels, and they ended up... Yeah,
so they're
they
just
basically...
throwing stuff at the
Yeah,
wall.
what happened
and
was that
hoping something
TSR
would
ended up
stick.
oversaturating the market and competing with themselves.
Oh, whoops. Hold on, guys. You know what you're doing. Real good.
I have no idea what the hell that was about.
Just mock people who
I thought you
didn't
were,
know
like-
how to do business.
Bowing out for a second and telling us to just keep going.
No. I was mocking the people who didn't.
Yeah. I'm also
Good.
gonna leave, Sean.
Good.
You're
Go
just gonna
away.
go by yourself for a little while. Oh. If that's how you feel,
No, I'm kidding. No, you know I love you.
it's okay. I love you too.
No homo.
Group hug!
Oh,
If you were physically able to... I mean, we're separated,
Captain said
right?
things that are funnier than us.
Alright, where was I? Yes, I was. Oh
Over
yeah,
there.
TSR screwed themselves over with AD&D. Yeah, basically TSR, in addition what money they could make and what ended up getting mismanaged, I believe that at some point there was like someone who was running the company who was basically just embezzling the hell out of it. And so by the end of the
wonderful.
90s, and also I should also mention that during the 90s, there was sort of a new wave of RPGs. This was when White Wolf got real popular with their World of Darkness games.
Oh, goody.
Which you can tell because
World of
Vampire the
Darkness.
Masquerade is like the most 90s thing ever.
I only kind of skimmed through the rule book. I should probably take a closer look at it.
But,
That's
so yeah, by the end of the 90s, TSR was bankrupt.
Yay.
Why are you Okay, whatever.
he doesn't understand capitalism. He's a communist.
I don't know, they sound like they weren't doing very well, so I kind of figured we were glad they were gone and that new people probably took
That
over.
sounds perfectly reasonable, comrade. Alright.
Well, hey, it's capitalism. You want the people to be making money. The people who are failing
He's-
it are the people who don't get bailouts.
Look, he's in Canada. He's a socialist, alright? He doesn't understand these things. The government steps in and
Are
saves
we
him.
just gonna be talking about economic theories every episode, or...
I would like to.
No.
I mean, can we
No.
do this?
We also need to bring up psychology at some point.
The ethical
Alright,
conduct
we're
psychology.
moving on. So anyway, yeah, TSR went bankrupt, and so Dungeons & Dragons was purchased by a company that at the time was known primarily for a trading card game. And I am talking, of course, about Wizards of the Coast. The creators of Magic the Gathering.
Which is awesome.
In fact,
I have never played that.
noob. In fact,
Got me.
Got Emrakul
In
recently.
fact, Magic the Gathering was actually inspired by Dungeons and Dragons. So this was basically a bunch of D&D fans buying buying one of their favorite games.
Hey, now I can use the Ascended
Yes.
fanboy thing.
So, Wizards of the Coast ended up creating their own version of Dungeons & Dragons, which they released as Dungeons & Dragons 3rd Edition, following from AD&D numbering. And 3rd Edition was very successful, and a key part of that success was the open gaming license. Which, basically, if you wanted to make your own game, you could use the core rules for Dungeons & Dragons 3rd Edition for free. Just as long as you credited them, and also your game would require the 3rd Edition Player's Handbook in order to be run.
Oh,
It's
okay.
funny. So I looked up a history, 40 years of D&D, right? And one of the things it lists for 2000 is Gary Gygax's guest appearance on Futurama. And I'm like, that's an important
That is
part
a
of
very
his history.
important part of his history. Because,
Yes.
Stephen Hawking was in
it
that
also
episode.
lists
Stephen
the
Hawking
movie.
and Al Gore were in that episode, and also, what's her name?
Michelle
Yes,
Nichols.
thank you. I was about to be attacked by an internet lynch mob for forgetting her name.
Interestingly enough, this thing lists where he plays D&D with Al Gore, Stephen Hawking, and others.
Yeah, I remember that episode. They, get, because it's like a
Yeah.
secret group. It's like Al Gore's secret group of people keeping the universe running, and they're trying to stop Fry because he's going to destroy the space-time continuum by accident,
And then he
At-
does
the
anyways.
headline, you will destroy the entire space-time continuum. And as an environmentalist, I'm against that.
Yeah. Oh, like it also the Jeremy Irons D&D movie.
Let's not talk
This is the
about that.
This is the greatest history of D&D thing I've ever
Let's not
seen.
talk about that. Alright, so 3rd edition eventually ended up getting its own little rules update, edition 3.5. And I'm not entirely sure if decimals are super appropriate for a fantasy, medieval European fantasy world, but okay.
Well, why did they do that anyway? Was the change between 3 and 3.5 greater than
Really minor?
less than the change between 2 and 3?
It was less than the change between 2 and 3, but I think it was roughly equivalent to the change between 1 and 2.
Oh, so pretty much they just wanted to.
Basically, they just didn't want to seem to be moving too fast. Like,
It was still the
this isn't
same
edition
core
4.
system, they just tweaked it a bit to make it run better.
Ah, okay, there you go.
Okay, well then it makes sense for it to be in decimal, yeah.
And I should also mention at this time, the traditional magazines associated with the game, Dungeon Magazine and Dragon Magazine, were being published by a company called Paizo. Remember them, kids. They will be important later on. But yeah, anyway, after a few years of enjoying success with 3.5, Wizards decided it was time to move on with a 4th edition of the game. 4th edition was slightly controversial. Slightly.
How so?
It changed a lot. 4th edition is often compared to video games, and I mean it's not exactly an unfair comparison, but I feel like people who make the comparison are simplifying it a bit.
Wait, they compare between what? Because your microphone is weird
video
for
games.
me on my end.
Yeah, you...
Oh,
Oh, okay.
Wait,
That actually
so
makes
that didn't
sense
come out
to me.
at all, what I just said.
Nope.
Wow,
yeah.
I really need a new mic.
We were just politely being silent, and I was like, you know what? No. I'm gonna break the
I
silence.
really need a new mic.
Yeah, well,
suppose so.
basically all that got cut off was the part where you were talking about what the 4th edition was compared to. You're like 4th
Yeah.
edition is commonly compared to, which is not an unfair comparison.
For me, it was more Like it sounded like a connection issue more than
Oh, okay.
anything.
Yeah.
Okay, well, so yeah, 4th edition was very much more focused on tactical combat. That is where 4th edition shined. Everything else, didn't really. 4th edition is not really a rule set for much else. And you could see this was a big issue because the older games were very much built on this sword and sorcery, go into these dungeons and seek your fortune, battles of attrition type deal. While 4th edition was more like, you are a badass, go forth and be badass.
Yeah.
And it was a huge paradigm shift, and you can see, like, the effects of this if you look at the older, like, 4th edition stuff. Like, the very first adventure they released for it, Keeper on the Shadowfell, was really not good. Like, I've played through Keep on the Shadowfell. It is a very tedious adventure, because it's a dungeon crawl. You're in a big dungeon, you're fighting waves of samey enemies, and in 4th edition, the way the combat engine works, it can take a really long time. So, dungeon crawls don't work well with 4th edition. 4th edition is a system that works best when you've got it works best when you're alternating between role playing and then combat encounters, like big set piece battle combat encounter, and then you go back to role playing for a bit. So a lot of D&D fans immediately just cried foul because they couldn't really play the same game they were playing with 4th edition. I mean, they could, but it would take forever. And at the same time, Wizards decided to bring their 2 magazines back in-house and release them digitally only. Which kind of left Paizo in the dust.
Poor Paizo.
Oh, Noah's going to get pizza and drink. He couldn't say that in the podcast itself, just had to message me to it, had to message us. What a coward. Let's talk about him behind his back while he's gone.
Nah, we don't want to waste the time. You're that, Noah? That's
All
who
right.
you are. Nah, I'm kidding. Love you, Noah. Come back.
So, to continue with our story, Noah's a big stupid idiot. Well, I mean, what?
Oh, man.
He's going to listen to this later and be like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Kidding, Noah. We're saying this with love, Noah.
Yep. We love you, Noah. Come back soon.
Alright, so, what?
Not too soon.
So, Paizo, faced with the backlash against D&D, against 4th edition, they decide to take the open gaming license and the 3.5 D20 system and use it to create their own game, Pathfinder, which is basically a cleaned up version of 3.5.
And one of my favorite versions.
And so Pathfinder became Dungeons and Dragons' biggest competitor. Now there is some bickering about when exactly Pathfinder overtook sales of D&D. The bickering is not helped by the fact that it's really hard to get hard sales data for Dungeons and Dragons. The closest you can for RPG, and the closest you can get is basically data from a bunch of different game shops, but that hardly accounts for anything.
Yeah. By the way, going back to that thing I was looking at, I can't find any mention of Pathfinder being created, but it does mention that the second episode of Community that was based on that was centered on Dungeons and Dragons aired in 2011.
Interesting.
Well, that's more
Yes, it
important,
is.
you know? You need to know it more.
I love this history.
So-
it's great.
4th edition eventually received its own update called Essentials. And Essentials was, from a marketing standpoint, a disaster. Because no one knew what the hell Essentials was. It was like on one hand they were saying that it was like supposed to be this great entry point for new players, but on the other hand they were also Essentials also redesigned a lot of the classes to make them more in line with the older edition versions of the classes, which would seem like they're trying to appeal to older players. And it's just, the whole thing was this marketing nightmare, and they never really communicated what they were trying to accomplish with the Essentials books.
Yeah.
The general consensus I've seen is that the player-facing Essentials material is very take it or leave it, but the DM-facing Essentials material is basically actually is essential. In particular, the Rules Compendium and the Monster Vault are both considered to be some of the best books 4th edition put out.
Monster Vault.
The Monster Vault was basically the Essentials version of the Monster Manual.
Yeah, it sounds like they should have been more upfront with what it was all about.
And they quickly dropped the Essentials line and just went back to the normal 4th edition hardcover books. Because I will give Essentials this. It was less expensive than the normal books because the Essentials books were these softcover digest size things. And so like the player's handbook for 4th edition costs like $40. The Essentials equivalent costs $20.
Essentials was the game that you ran.
First Essentials was my entry point to Dungeons & Dragons. So they did get one new player from it at least.
Yay. And kind of two.
So overall, how would you rate Essentials? How was it?
It's okay. Yeah. The Essentials versions of the classes are less interesting than the core 4th edition classes, if only because like they went back to fighters and rogues not like doing normal basic attacks every round instead of having a bunch of cool powers. But I mean, it's basically the same game, just slightly different.
Although Righteous Radiance is awesome, and I wish it was in
Essentials and normal 4th edition are 100% compatible with each other.
Yay.
Sounds like it was designed to be.
The final few years of 4th edition are generally one thing I noted in a couple discussions I've read about this is that 4th edition appears to be the only edition where a lot of people prefer the books that came out at the tail end of its life cycle. Because the general consensus is that for like 2nd edition and 3rd edition and stuff, the books that came out towards the tail end generally were not very good. But with 4th edition, the books that came out at the tail end included stuff like the Neverwinter campaign setting and the Shadowfell box set, and those were all, which were like really well liked and really well received.
Yay.
In fact, the Neverwinter campaign setting is one of my favorite RPG books.
Awesome.
And I don't even like the Forgotten Realms. Alright, and anyway, Wizards of the Coast decided that they needed to create a 5th edition. And so they started doing surveys and playtests for D&D Next, as they called it. And during like the 2 years this was going on, there were no new releases for 4th edition whatsoever.
Ooh.
And this was the point where it became where Pathfinder sort of unambiguously defeated Dungeons & Dragons as king of RPG sales.
Yay.
Because Paizo was still publishing stuff. And at the same time, Paizo was also forging its own identity with Pathfinder. Pathfinder is no longer just 3.5 D&D. It's got its own setting, its own crazy classes and crazy rules and stuff.
Yeah. Sounds like they were really confident with the next edition of Dungeons and Dragons, though.
And when it finally came out, turns out they should have been confident because 5th edition sold insanely well when it came out a year ago.
Awesome.
Makes sense.
Did they overtake Paizo or not?
Oh yeah, they crushed Paizo with 5th edition. Like even the designers of 5th edition, because there are only like 8 people working on D&D 5. Like like a small handful of people, even they were completely shocked at how well the edition went.
And that's the one we're playing now.
Yes.
It is Dungeons and Dragons. I mean,
and 5th edition was
that's
also
what people
widely
default
hailed
to.
as return to form.
Yay.
I've seen a lot of people compare it to AD&D 2nd edition. Like, I've seen a couple of people say that it's basically AD&D 2nd edition, but if they took, like, the feel of it and put it over a 3rd edition skeleton.
That just sounds gross.
Yeah, that is kind of... I realized as I was saying that was really gross.
Bone transplant, yeah. So it's like transplanting the bones out of a person into another person, you know? It's just like that.
So 5th edition is really well liked by a lot of old 3rd edition fans really like it. A lot of AD&D fans really like it. There are a couple 4th edition fans who finally get to be grognards. Side note, a grognard is a term in RPG fandom for someone who prefers older editions of things and doesn't like all this newfangled stuff that the kids are playing these days. So
that's a good name for them.
4th edition fans finally get a chance to be grognards. 5th edition seems to be one of the most popular versions of the game so far. Like, its sales... I think it made it on, like, the books made, like a tough bunch of bestseller lists, and there were articles about it in, like, respectable publications.
Getting to the top of a bestsellers list is pretty impressive, but it's not incredibly impressive until you actually overtake the Bible's record.
Well, it's impressive for an RPG book.
Yeah.
If something overtook the Bible, that would be, like, crazy. Because, like, it would have been selling, like, it's selling for, like, a week and it overtakes the Bible. Like, everyone's mind should be blown, like, into outer space. That's crazy. It's been for sale for thousands of years.
Although, actually, wasn't it overtaken at one point by, like, a gardening book for, like, a few seconds?
I have no idea.
Yeah, if it was, like, that's actually disappointing. Like, I would hope it'd be something more exciting than a gardening book.
It was Adam and Eve's revenge.
It was Ed and Eve, too.
Yes.
It was Genesis 2. That's what it was.
So, now that we've gone over the history of Dungeons & Dragons, what are your guys' thoughts on the game?
I have not had much experience with tabletop RPGs outside of Dungeons and Dragons. I've tried Call of Cthulhu, small amount of Shadowrun, small amount of Paranoia. Not really much experience of anything but D&D, and Pathfinder, I guess, but they're kind of still the same thing in a lot of ways. But it's definitely one of my favorite systems that I've tried so far. Mm-hmm. As I've said, that doesn't mean much. And my favorite race is Tieflings. My favorite class is Paladin, surprisingly. To me, anyways. Although I'm really liking Cleric now that I've tried it.
I think that I really appreciate all the effort they put into it. You know, it shows. Well, I want to say it shows dedication to it. But really, I mean, let's be honest here. They're showing dedication to the money they're getting from it. But still, you know, I still appreciate the quality of the products that they're producing, and I hope to see future editions.
The 5th edition is kind of interesting because there aren't very many. They've barely released really anything for it. Like this, we're a year into 5th edition. At this point, like 3rd and 4th edition had at least 10 implement books already released by this point. With 5th edition, it really seems like they're the goal of the edition was just to keep the brand alive.
It's also possible they're just putting a lot more work into stuff in 5th edition, that's why it's taking so much longer.
Well, they're outsourcing a ton of stuff, too. Like, all of the adventures they've released for it, except maybe for the starter set adventure, Lost Mines of Phandelver, like, every adventure they released for it has been outsourced to a different publisher. And even the Sword Coast Adventures Guide is partially written by Green Ronin.
Wow.
And But like I said, there's only like a very small handful of people working on the game.
Yeah.
And yeah, Wizard of the Coast at some point got purchased by Hasbro. And Hasbro seems to be interested in D&D primarily as a brand. Because it is a recognizable brand. There's not much money to be made in RPGs, but the D&D brand, now that.
I still not want to...
You'll see some toys at Toys R Us for, like, purchasable, like, orc figures or whatever, you know?
But, I mean, you can see evidence of this because, like, the Sword Coast Adventures guide comes out roughly around the same time as the video game Sword Coast Adventures. That's brand synergy, my friend.
Yeah.
Although, what a weird coincidence.
Since you've made me aware that Hasbro, owns D&D essentially, I've been really wanting to make a campaign wherein the player characters buy up parts of a city and eventually kill a guy who looks like Moneybags.
Thing is, I don't think Hasbro really cares about D&D. Like, this last year was the first time it even showed up on their, like, on their yearly financial reports. But however, they are very interested in, because they recently announced that they're finally moving forward with a new D&D movie.
Yeah.
And they seem to be really interested in that. They had a long court battle to get the movie rights back for it.
I can imagine.
And, yeah, I think that Hasbro thinks it can use Dungeons and Dragons to try to do what Marvel did.
Oh my god.
Oh god, they want to create a D&D universe?
Yeah, I think that's what they want
to do.
That
could either be the worst thing ever made, or actually really awesome. But they need to get Jeremy Irons to play someone in it.
No, here's what I think they should do with it. I think that they should have one film series per campaign setting. So like one Forgotten Realms series, one Eberron series. And then they should have like a Planescape movie or something in order to cross them over with.
Yeah, that actually would be really cool.
Yeah, it would also incentivize releasing more campaigns. So
yeah. Give me my Eberron and Ravenloft campaign set.
Ravenloft
5th edition. No, actually, they released, because the Wizards team has been releasing surveys like every month, and one of them was about campaign settings, and they actually released the results of that survey a while back, and they basically said that the campaign settings in terms of which ones people want to see can be divided basically into 3 tiers. The first tier has 5 settings, and these are like the 5 most popular ones.
Okay.
And they are Forgotten Realms, obviously. Eberron, Dark Sun, Ravenloft, and Planescape.
Awesome.
And that makes sense. Forgotten Realms is like the setting that they've been pushing a lot. It's always been like the biggest campaign setting.
It's
in
the
D&D.
basic D&D setting, right? Or is that great?
It as a 5th edition, it might as well be, because all the 5th edition adventures are set in it. It's basically being used as the baseline for 5e.
Okay.
Eberron, it's probably the newest setting, aside from Nintir Vale, which was the 4th edition default setting. But Eberron, I think, came out in like 2003, maybe?
Oh wait, wasn't part of Essentials? You just were using it as the place for our Essentials game?
Oh no, Eberron won a contest.
Oh, okay.
Incidentally, the guy who wrote Order of the Stick, his setting came in 2nd place.
Oh, well, his setting.
I don't know anything about it, because Wizards technically owns the top 3 settings from that contest.
So they might still use it, basically.
Probably not.
Probably not, but I mean, if they own it, they probably own it for a reason.
But
they'll use it like when they run out of like their own ideas, and they want to make more money. Like, okay, this guy's.
So yeah, Eberron was kind of popular just because it was so different when it came out, and it was one of the few settings that got a 4th edition write-up. So it makes sense that it's still really popular. Same with Dark Sun, because it was really successful with its 4th edition version too.
Yeah.
Even though there was no 3rd edition Dark Sun, it skipped from 2e to 4e. Planescape, at first I thought that's kind of odd, but it makes sense because Planescape is very popular with AD&D fans, and as we established, a lot of AD&D fans really like 5th edition.
Not to mention,
at the same time,
Planescape's just an awesome idea. Moving between
at the same
different
time,
places.
Planescape is also the setting of what is considered to be one of the best computer RPGs ever made, Planescape Torment.
Yeah.
So the only one that I really think that really does kind of surprise me is Ravenloft's placement in the top 5.
I'm not surprised. Everyone loves
I
ye
like
old Gothic
Ravenloft.
horror.
I just didn't realize it was that big.
Everyone loves ye old Gothic horror.
Yeah.
That's why Bloodborne's so big right now. Well, that, yeah. Everything else.
Sorry, what was that, Noah?
I know nothing about campaign settings, so I'm kind of
I thought you were saying you don't like Gothic horror.
No. Oh, that sounds kind of cool, but yeah, no, I don't know anything about any of these campaign settings, so I can't tell you if I'm surprised or not.
I think the second tier campaign settings there was a small demand for it, but not much. Those would be Greyhawk, Dragonlance, and Spelljammer.
Somehow I knew Dragonlance would end up in the second tier.
Yeah. They might or might not release 5th edition treatments for those settings. Who knows? And then everything else was tier 3, which was basically no one was really asking for this.
Hey.
What's like a campaign setting that like when you that's like absolutely horrible? That you
there
know
have been
of.
a few that no one really liked, but
They're
I'm
like,
not really sure if there's any that have been super horrible. There have been some that were released and then forgotten. Like, I don't think anyone remembers Ghostwalk.
Nope.
Ghostwalk was the first setting they released for 3rd edition, and everyone promptly forgot it.
did you ever see it or?
I actually, my local game store has a used copy of it for sale for like $18. I flipped through it a few times.
Huh.
Does it seem interesting or?
Its
Was it
most
forgotten
interesting
for anything?
thing is the fact that the dead have to wander across the earth in order to go to their final resting place, which is why it's called Ghostwalk.
That's
But other
kinda
than
cool,
that,
yeah.
it just seems really like. Other than that, it's like, whatever.
Huh.
Okay.
So Noah,
yeah.
favorite thing about Dungeons and Dragons? Go.
My favorite thing about Dungeons and Dragons, well, I mean, I guess my favorite thing about Dungeons and Dragons would just be my favorite thing about tabletop role-playing games altogether, which is just how many options I have, you know? It's a very, very wide hallway, that's what I like to call it.
Why?
Because when it doesn't have direction, it's boring. So of course it has direction, you know?
Oh, okay, guess that makes sense.
Everybody get on the railroad.
Choo choo.
Sorry, but I'm gonna go take a different train, is what some players say. And then
Your train goes directly into a wall.
Fun fact: in the Eberron setting, there are trains.
What?
Really?
Yes,
That's
Eberron
cool.
has a system of magical trains. They're called the Lightning Rail.
That's cool.
They're primarily introduced because Eberron is supposed to be a really pretty setting, so they primarily exist so that players can have rooftop battles on top of them.
Nice. And anytime I think of that, I think of one of two things. Bacano or Archer, where it's like never ever fighting off of a train.
Oh god, my eyes!
Yeah.
Put this in the notebook. There's never any reason to ever fight on top of a moving train. What if they have a helicopter? What if shut up?
It's funny too. It's like they do it with such ease. Like, yeah, I'm effortlessly staying. I'm staying on my feet. I also have no trouble seeing. Like, this is perfectly fine. I can breathe normally too while fighting.
Yep.
I love
Gotta
that Archer
admit, though.
episode where he's all excited to be on the roof on like the train top battle, and then he stands up and immediately screams in pain as the air rushes into his eyes and falls
Yeah.
over.
That was a great episode.
The freaking ocelot running around peeing on everything.
Yeah. Get him, boys. He's crepuscular. I actually have to look up what that meant. That's actually one of the first times I have to look up something. Like, look up a word. Oh, man. I was gonna say something. Oh, yeah. Regardless of how stupid it is or not, though, fighting on top of a train definitely looks awesome in movies and stuff.
Yes, it does. In the 4th edition Eberron campaign guide, one of the chapter paintings is this insanely cool picture where there's like a warforged hanging off of an airship above, like he's got one hand on the airship and he's on his other hand he's got like a sword and he's looking down at this lightning rail train that's speeding down below him like he's about to jump onto it.
Oh, that's pretty awesome.
It seems like he could have waited a little bit, though, before falling down.
And not be awesome?
I mean, would you rather be awesome or be alive? Like, I don't know.
Awesome.
He's
definitely.
a warforged. He's a magical robot.
Alright, fine.
I wonder if they'd ever make a modern day.
Take that, Mr. Nothing Can Be Fun.
I wonder if they'd ever make like a modern day D&D campaign setting that was still like fitting the fantasy magical mold and stuff.
The newest Unearthed Arcana article is actually about exactly that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's got like a Ghost of the Machine patron for warlocks and like special spells for urban environments and stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Like, do that. I think that would be kind of awesome to play D&D with like normal D&D, but in like a modern setting.
And
modern
LARPing, but without pretending that you're somewhere else.
No, D&D in Detroit. In Detroit,
it does have a lot of ruins for you to explore.
We'll become coke dealers and the cops won't care.
I saw this story online. Someone was talking about their experiences with LARPing, and they said he was in a Shadowrun LARP that seemed really cool at the time. Like,
yeah, I saw that. They were
wandering, like they were going around on secret missions and stuff. But he started wondering why every single mission seemed to involve picking up a package from one place and moving it and putting it somewhere else. And then, like, everyone in the LARP got arrested because the guy running it was just using them to transport drugs across the city.
That's amazing.
I saw that. That was great. I like the story of his second LARP experience too.
How do you tell the cops? No, I promise you. We were just LARPing. We were LARPing and we had no idea we were transporting drugs across the city. No.
He actually says in the thing, it was very fun trying to explain to the cops what was happening.
Fun? I don't know. I wouldn't look at it as fun. I'd look at it as, like, frustrating. Like, come on!
I imagine that fun was said very sarcastically.
Yeah.
Apparently his second attempt at LARPing ended in a giant orgy, so...
I need to go to more LARPs. Alright.